Indonesia is one of the countries that participate in promoting environmentally friendly or sustainable development. The government's commitment to realizing sustainable development is also mandated to us. PT Sarana Multi-Infrastructure Persero, or PT-SMI, as one of these special mission vehicles which has strategic roles and tasks as the government's fiscal tool to accelerate development. Through the three pillars of our business, along with trust and other assignments given by the government, we support in accelerating sustainable development through various initiatives that address various aspects of concern for the environment and the future. We are recognizing the important role of various strategic partners and donors in contributing to accelerate development for sustainable economic growth. Up to now, we have contributed more than 770 trillion rupiah in financing to various projects. Since 2018, we have actively participated in encouraging various initiatives in the context of sustainable development. One of them is being a pioneer by issuing the first green bond in Indonesia that supports and preserves the environment. In addition, we also offer various solutions and innovations to support the achievement of the SDGs through various infrastructure projects and actively build collaborations with various parties. With various roles and mandates given and carried out, the principles of good corporate governance have not escaped our attention. The implementation of ISO 37001 Anti-Bribery Management System, SMAP, standard in the company's operational activities is a form of responsibility and commitment to maintain compliance to create a transparent and better business world. With enthusiasm and optimism to develop trust and capacity as a credible institution in carrying out sustainable national development programs, the flames of our spirit will always burn to keep innovating and be fully committed to support the achievement of a just, advanced, and prosperous Indonesia.
Every achievement started with a single step. We may look forward, but our present actions should be accountable. In a resource-constrained world, longevity is carved by our actions. Our actions reflects our intention. Our intention reflects our responsibilities. Time passes. Environment changes, but vitality of life remains. Every shift, every relapse, the essence of life dances above seas of time. The best time to invest is decades ago. The second best time is today. A good business makes profit. Great business makes impact. Building this nation goes beyond the value chain. It takes knowledge, it takes perseverance, it takes passion, and above all, it takes commitment. We are here to flourish, to evolve, and together we are here to leave a legacy. We are confident in our future goals by being committed to our present consistency. Our value is timeless as we catalyze a sustainable development for this nation. We preserve tomorrow's by securing today's. We are the enablers for sustainable development. We are the catalyst to secure a future that the upcoming generations can reap. We are PT Indonesia Infrastructure Finance.
PT Indonesia Infrastructure Finance goes beyond than just an infrastructure financing institution. IIF is a catalyst, enabler, and an accelerator for a sustainable infrastructure development in Indonesia. Established in 2010, these mandates has been carried out through numerous projects all across the Indonesian archipelago. We actively instigate private participation in infrastructure investment through our financing and advisory services for the good cause of building this nation. IIF stands by its sustainability values, supported by our prominent shareholders, experienced management, and talented experts. We assure that our operations are implementing social and environmental policy safeguard that is accredited on a global scale. Over a decade of our existence, IIF has proven our premise that we are not only here to come, but we are here to move forward in leaps and bounds. IIF will always be committed to make an impact to the growth of this nation through sustainable infrastructure.
Nature and human beings are two interrelated components with a variety of natural resources that are beneficial for the continuity of human beings. Humans should grow by utilizing, along with conserving, natural resources and the environment. The progress of mankind, marked by massive development, should not pollute and interfere with the sustainability of the environment towards our generations to come. Therefore, sustainable development, especially in the infrastructure sector, is the main key to maintaining a balance between development and environment. Still, this is certainly a challenge in itself, because it requires the support and participation of all parties. Indonesia is one of the countries that participates in promoting environmentally friendly or sustainable development. The government's commitment to realizing sustainable development is also mandated to us, PT Sarana Multi-Infrastructure Persero, or PT SMI, as one of these special mission vehicles which has strategic roles and tasks as the government's fiscal tool to accelerate development. Through the three pillars of our business, along with trust and other assignments given by the government, we support in accelerating sustainable development through various initiatives that address various aspects of concern for the environment and the future. We are recognizing the important role of various strategic partners and donors in contributing to accelerate development for sustainable economic growth. Up to now, we have contributed more than 770 trillion rupiah in financing to various projects. Since 2018, we have actively participated in encouraging various initiatives in the context of sustainable development. One of them is being a pioneer by issuing the first green bond in Indonesia that supports and preserves the environment. In addition, we also offer various solutions and innovations to support the achievement of the SDGs through various infrastructure projects and actively build collaborations with various parties. With various roles and mandates given and carried out, the principles of good corporate governance have not escaped our attention. the implementation of ISO 37001 Anti-Bribery Management System, SMAP, standard in the company's operational activities is a form of responsibility and commitment to maintain compliance to create a transparent and better business world. With enthusiasm and optimism to develop trust and capacity as a credible institution in carrying out sustainable national development programs, the flames of our spirit will always burn to keep innovating and be fully committed to support the achievement of a just, advanced, and prosperous Indonesia.
Every achievement started with a single step. We may look forward, but our present actions should be accountable. In a resource-constrained world, longevity is carved by our actions. Our actions reflects our intention. Our intention reflects our responsibilities. Time passes. Environment changes, but vitality of life remains. Every shift, every relapse, the essence of life dances above seas of time. The best time to invest is decades ago. The second best time is today. A good business makes profit. A great business makes impact. Building this nation goes beyond the value chain. It takes knowledge. It takes perseverance. It takes passion. And above all, it takes commitment. We are here to flourish, to evolve, and together we are here to leave a legacy. We are confident with our future goals by being committed to our present consistency. Our value is timeless as we catalyze a sustainable development for this nation. We preserve tomorrow's by securing today's. We are the enablers for sustainable development. We are the catalyst to secure a future that the upcoming generations can reap. We are PT Indonesia Infrastructure Finance.
PT Indonesia Infrastructure Finance goes beyond than just an infrastructure financing institution. IIF is a catalyst, enabler, and an accelerator for a sustainable infrastructure development in Indonesia. Established in 2010, this mandate has been carried out through numerous projects all across the Indonesian archipelago. We actively instigate private participation in infrastructure investment through our financing and advisory services for the good cause of building this nation. IIF stands by its sustainability values, supported by our prominent shareholders, experienced management, and talented experts. We assure that our operations are implementing social and environmental policy safeguard that is accredited on a global scale. Over a decade of our existence, IIF has proven our premise that we are not only here to come, but we are here to move forward in leaps and bounds. IIF will always be committed to make an impact to the growth of this nation through sustainable infrastructure projects.
nature, and its content are getting worse and out of control. We need to take an action and contribution in improving the situation. Currently, nature and its environment are not in their best state. To maintain the nature and the environment we are in now, we must take action and contribute to improve our situation, not only for the present, but for the future. There's a hope. There's a new spirit. By holding hands together, unite the commitment and never-ending activities, there will be great and magnificent result for the better world. Together, with hope and full spirit, let us be committed to sustain and unite in ensuring a better tomorrow. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semuanya. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the Sofitel Bali Nusa Dua Beach Resort for PT SMI and IIF Road to G20 Sustainable Finance, Instruments and Management in Achieving Sustainable Development of Indonesia. Can we have a big round of applause for our event today, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you very much. First of all, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Andrea Lee, and I will be your host for today's event. It is an honor for me to be here, and I hope everyone is in a good condition. I would like to inform you that today's event has followed the COVID-19 health protocols in accordance with the government's instructions. Everyone involved has been tested with negative result, and everyone's on duty is to continuously wear their masks, safely distance, and to use hand sanitizer frequently. However, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to host this event without my mask on for a clearer and a better sound. Furthermore, now allow me to welcome our distinguished guest of honor this morning. Welcome the Honorable Minister of Finance of the Republic of Indonesia, Ibu Sri Mulyani Indrawati, along with the board from the Ministry of Finance, Republic of Indonesia. Good morning and welcome. And now, ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment that we have been waiting for. The keynote speech from the Minister of Finance of the Republic of Indonesia, Ibu Sri Mulyani Indrawati. Ibu Sri Mulyani, the stage is yours.
Om Swastiastu, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning to all of you. I don't have to mention all the guests here as well as the speaker because it's been repeated 3 times by the MC and then Pak Edwin and then Pak Renaldi. So I would like to just greet everybody here, Pak Darmin and all colleagues. My dear colleague from both SMV, that is PT SMI, and all the colleagues from PT IIF. I also welcome from PLN Pertamina, who also attend here. My colleague from ADB, who's also arriving here, and also other speakers. First, I would like to welcome you all to Bali, this conference is actually a series of side events that we are designing together and jointly with Bank Indonesia to make sure that the road to the G20 Finance Minister and Central Bank Governor meeting, that this is the third meeting under the Indonesia presidency, hopefully it's going to be also successful. There are so many side events that we design, and they are all very well aligned with the theme that the G20 is currently managing as well as promoting. That is how we are going to be able to recover together, recover stronger. It's a very ambitious and challenging theme given the situation and the dynamic that we are facing today. So I would like to express my appreciation to PTSMI and IIF who contributing to this side event leading to the G20 Finance and Central Bank Governors meetings. Let us now discuss about the theme today, which is a sustainable finance instrument and management in achieving sustainable development goal in Indonesia. Indonesia, just like many other countries in the world, has been suffered from pandemic. The COVID-19 since 2020 has contracting economy as well as creating a very serious momentum damage of the momentum of growth and progress in many countries in the world. And this pandemic is not yet over. So we are still currently struggling to first, of course, making sure that this COVID-19 can be overcome, which is requiring still the vaccination. For some country is a booster, for other country, especially low-income country, they cannot even get the first shot on their vaccination. So the access of vaccination is going to be very important, and that's why within this pandemic, within this finance minister as well as central bank governors meeting, we are discussing one of the topic is the joint finance and health, which is the goals is to better prepare the world for the next pandemic. So the pandemic preparedness is one of the most important topic, in which we also establish one of the financial instrument, that is FIF, in order for the world to mobilize funding so that we will be able next time around when we are facing with another pandemic, because COVID is not going to be the one and the last one. And how we are going to be able to better prepare, better response, quick response, so that the damage as well as the casualty is not going to be as big as this COVID-19. Another issue, this pandemic is not only creating, of course, casualty on a human and humanitarian side, but also on economic and financial side. Many countries, in this case, introducing a lot of policy in order for them to be able to not only cope with the pandemic but also to recover their economy. Indonesia is not an exception. Together with Bank Indonesia, fiscal policy and monetary policy, working closely also with the OJK in order for us to be able to design the counter-cyclical. And in this case, Indonesia is among few countries who can recover to the pre-pandemic output level or GDP level in 2021. A very quick recovery, which is, I think, we should be very thankful for that achievement. But the goals as well as the objective is not finished by actually achieving the pre-pandemic output level. We still need to continue address a lot of development issue which is captured in the SDG, and that's why in this case PTSMI, which is promoting continuously the sustainable development goals and how to achieve, is becoming commendable, and I appreciate that. One of the most important which is also need to be put within the design of policy, is the climate change challenge. So the world is not only facing with pandemic, but we are also facing another catastrophic threat to the global economy, that is climate change. And that makes even more complicated with this geopolitical situation, which have what you call it a spillover effect, a damaging effect to the food and energy price globally. Pursuing and achieving the goals within the SDG related to climate change is going to be even more tougher with the geopolitical consequences or geopolitical spillover, which is related to the food and energy. Why? Because many of the menu and priority of activity within climate change agenda usually related to the two very most important contributor to the climate change. The first is energy, the second one is food or land use. So this is going to be a very complex, what you call it, environment for all of us. Within this G20, we continue discussing as well as finding a way for us to be able as a group, but also in this case, working closely with many international organizations, multilateral institutions, in order for us to be able not only discussing, but addressing this issue of climate change in the most effective way. We are all understand that the world or countries always meet every year under what you call it UNFCCC to discuss about climate change and threat, commitment for all countries to contribute avoiding this threat, and how much does it cost for each country for this kind of commitment. Indonesia is also participating in all this meeting. Our commitment to also participating in addressing the climate change threat has been actually very strong track record. Indonesia, in fact, here in Bali, is the first to host the UNFCCC 13, and at the same time we initiate the first meeting between Finance Minister, Development Minister and Environmental Minister. Before that, usually the talking about climate change is only attended and dominated by the environmentalists and environment agency or ministries. But finance never discussed. But since Bali, we actually initiated and putting the financial aspect within the context of climate change discussion and talk and even negotiation. Then it achieved what we call it the Paris Agreement within the UNFCCC, in which countries, they pledge their nationally determined contribution. For Indonesia, we pledge or we commit to reduce our CO2 emission by 29% with our own effort and resources, or we can upscale to 41% reduction of CO2 with international support. And this connotation regarding the need to scale up reduction of CO2 that can only be achieved if there is international support, and especially from the advanced country, is also reflected in the Paris Agreement. At that agreement, the advanced country pledge or commit to contribute 100 billion per year for countries, especially low income as well as emerging country, to be able to scale up their national determined contribution. this is still actually a homework which is not yet delivered. And that's why within the context of Indonesia as a host of this G20 presidency, we also put the sustainable finance as one of the most important topics that need to be discussed among finance ministers and central bank governor. Sustainable finance is not only discussing regarding the affordability of the climate change commitment, but also the aspect of just or equality. This is consistent with the UNFCCC principle of common but differentiated responsibility. For a country like Indonesia, which have huge tropical forests, Indonesia definitely will be scrutinized in terms of our management of tropical forests. For a country as big as Indonesia, who also still in the process of development and continue pushing poverty eradication by promoting growth and job creation, a country as the fourth largest population in the world will definitely require more and more electricity or power. So for Indonesia, the source of the CO2 emission coming from the power sector definitely is becoming one of the area that will be also scrutinized. But this is not only for Indonesia, so that orang Indonesia jangan baper gitu. Because all country will be also scrutinized. And then it's not only the low income or emerging country, but also other country will be scrutinized. United States, their commitment to the climate change. European, especially under the situation, geopolitical situation in which the access of energy becoming very, very challenging because of the war in Ukraine. Their commitment to the climate change definitely is going to be also scrutinized. So all countries will be scrutinized. For Indonesia, because we've already committed to the NDC, nationally determined contribution, the reputation and credibility of our country's commitment is definitely need to be continued, built, and safeguarded. So how we are going to achieve this very important commitment? It is not only that we just want to comply to please others, but because we commit this one, because we understand climate change is a threat for our own people. Climate change has been also creating a dire consequence to many of our own population. So it is actually serving our own development need. In order for us to be able to achieve the NDC, it will require financing. And it is not a small, trivial financing. I'll give you the size of it's been estimated in terms of how much it is required to achieve the NDC. If we are going to reduce the CO2 29%, the contribution of the power sector electricity company especially is going to be 314 million ton CO2 reduction. This is the largest, the second largest after forestry. If we want to scale up into 41% of reduction of CO2, then the power sector need to reduce CO2 by 446 million ton. That's huge. That's humongous. Really, 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 really big. And how much it costs for us to be able to reduce the CO2 emission for the electricity. So this is the case. Indonesia will continue growing. So our demand and the need for electricity is going to be even more increased. How come Indonesia will satisfy the increasing demand of electricity while at the same time reducing the CO2? That's the challenge. That is what is the simple statement, problem statement. This country will continue need electricity. When people growing now, the income per capita of Indonesia is already $4,350. We are in a middle income country, and if Indonesia continue growing with 5% and we becoming middle upper income country or advanced country, then the consumption per capita of the electricity will definitely increase. People who used to be only have one small house without air condition now have air condition. People who doesn't have the refrigerator now have the refrigerator. So each is going to be continue increase. But we commit to reduce the CO2 emission, especially from the electricity. So the question for the PLN, as the monopoly company state-owned, how you are going to produce more electricity with less CO2? That is actually the menu of the day. That is exactly what we are discussing very seriously, whether in a UNFCCC or in the forum like the G20. So how much it costs for us to continue increasing the production of electricity while reducing the CO2 emission by 314 million ton or 446 million ton CO2 from electricity. The cost is just staggering. It will require 243 billion US dollar for 29%. For 41% is 243 billion only for the electricity. Or if we are going to put in rupiah, karena I think the audience in this room cannot connect with 243 billion. You have no idea what number is that. So I will translate in rupiah. It's about 3.500 triliun. And I give you an idea what does it mean, Ibu. APBN kita is around 3.000 triliun. So just to give you the context, 243 billion with the GDP of Indonesia, which is around 1.2 trillion US dollar. So this is a huge resources that need to be mobilized. So the discussion now is not about the commitment to reduce CO2, but in order for you to be able to deliver those commitments, you need money, you need technology, and you need the principle that is allowing these resources to be able to be mobilized. And that's why the discussion has been very, very a lot. And I'm glad that after this, you are going to have the panel, which is going to discuss on all those more technical detail. But in principle, this will definitely not only coming from the government-owned money. The government have played a very important role, but not the one and the only resource for this kind of commitment. The role of private sector is very, very important. The role of international finance is very, very important. And that's why the question regarding how you can create a policy framework that allowing and attracting financing, which is not only coming from the government to be able to finance the CO2 reduction within the global context. That means that the carbon need to be priced. If you can always continue producing CO2 without any consequence and no price, then nobody have no incentive to reduce the CO2. When you put the price, then everybody suddenly realize that this is a bad pollution. And that's why the discussion regarding the carbon market, in which when you create a market for carbon, then the price can be quoted. For many players, especially business, this is a new opportunity. Indonesia is now preparing all the necessary regulatory framework and framework for this market for carbon can be introduced. The first experiment is for the PLN to start introducing cap and then trade of the carbon for their power generator among the IPP. When you have the price, then you actually then can introduce other instruments like the carbon tax. When you have that one, then you are going to be able to create a market for carbon not only domestic but also globally. When we are talking about the global carbon market, unfortunately, the price of carbon is not one universal price for all. And this is the serious debate within the finance ministers meeting. What is the fair price of carbon, which is reflecting this common but differentiated responsibility? You are talking about one commodity that is CO2, but differentiated price. So we can imagine how complex this mechanism and how effective this is going to be able to be implemented. But this is exactly one of the most core issue which is being discussed on the financing side. Another issue is how country can transition their energy production toward more renewable and green economy, green energy. And this is also one of the most important in which Ministry of Finance is preparing. Currently, 62% of the PLN energy consists of coal or batu bara. Definitely, every consumption of the energy like what we are doing today in this room, you are actually contributing to the emission of CO2. Because this electricity produced 62% by coal. So while you're enjoying a very pleasant room, you are actually polluting the world. Just to remind you about that. Now, the solution is not sacrificing those kind of the level of enjoyment that you have, but how we can produce the electricity which is cleaner and greener. And that is exactly how the ETM, energy transition mechanism, is going to be very important. The role of the two very most important state-owned enterprise, that is Pertamina and PLN, cannot be actually put aside. They are becoming the most important and maybe the one that can determine whether Indonesia can achieve this kind of commitment. This is not development commitment, this is actually humanitarian commitment. Whether these two institutions is becoming the champion of this green transformation. Now, the Ministry of Finance is working very closely with other ministries, including the ASDM, state-owned enterprises, the coordinating ministers, because President Jokowi, within this G20, he wants to showcase Indonesia have the ability to transform our energy toward green energy. President Jokowi has already communicated in many international fora. It is our job to deliver that commitment. So we are now working very closely with the PLN for the ETM, and I do hope Pertamina is also joined actively in designing. When you talk about green energy, Indonesia fortunate enough to have huge potential. You name it, hydro, geothermal, wind, solar, I think tidal. These are all which Indonesia have huge potential. So the challenge as well as the opportunity for us is to design the right policy. And that is exactly what we are now preparing together with others in order for us to be able to continue putting the instrument and the right policy. We use special mission vehicle like PTSMI to contribute. Pak Edwin mentioned earlier that he's very proud that PTSMI become the net zero company and the financing has already achieved 500 million. Just remember, the need for financing is 243 billion. So 500 juta itu belum apa-apa Pak Edwin, walaupun sudah bangga. That means that you have to do more. And it is not necessarily that you have to use all your own balance sheet by excessively leverage yourself, which is becoming unsustainable. You have to be able to create creative financing. IIF with PTSMI, we are assigned them to be able to continue innovate the financing by working together with multilateral institution, bilateral institution, philanthropic, they call it blended finance. And that's why PTSMI hosting what you call it the Sustainable Development Goals Blended Finance Indonesia 1. This is the blended finance which is created under the PTSMI former CEO Ibu Emma, which is ada di sini. I hope she still care about the green financing because she's already moved to Pertamina. So we want to mobilize all funding with the creative financing. Now the last part of my speech is about the ecosystem. This cannot be done by PLN, Pertamina, PTSMI, IIF, and Menteri Keuangan, Kementerian Keuangan, dan juga dengan others ministries. This can be done if all stakeholders will participate in this climate change goal. And that's why Indonesia also need to build, this is my last part, the ecosystem of the whole climate change financing. When you talk about the ecosystem, that means regulatory framework, one thing, including financial sector ability to mobilize green financing. And that means we need to have regulatory framework, enforcement, the integrity of the financing part. And that's why we work closely with the OJK, as well as Bank Indonesia in order for us to be able to develop the right taxonomy for the climate financing. This is one of the agenda that will be discussed and is already being discussed in the ASEAN and will be continued discussed to find the right taxonomy not only for each country but for other country, because carbon market have no boundary. When you pollute the CO2, this is belong to the whole world. When you reduce the CO2, you create benefit for the whole world. That is maybe the most difficult part. That's why the taxonomy need to be discussed at the regional or even global level. Next year, Indonesia is going to hold the chairmanship of the ASEAN, and within the ASEAN finance minister, we will also discuss about this taxonomy. So I think this is what we're trying to do. What I'm providing you today is that when Indonesia commit to reduce the CO2 to avoid the climate change threat or catastrophical consequences, Indonesia also working hard in a credible way to deliver those commitments. and working in a credible way is not an easy and simple task. It will require all parties to coordinate and collaborate within Indonesia and with other partners beyond Indonesia at the global level. Because the issue is so complex, the spirit of collaboration and cooperation is one of the most necessary ingredient for the success of the achievement. And I have to testify under the current geopolitical situation, the spirit of collaboration and coordination is a very, very challenging task. So with this side event, I do hope that we are going to be able to continue contribute to this kind of process, as well as maintaining and reminding all of us that climate change cannot go away by itself. It can only be avoided if we work together. Consistent with the G20 theme, if we work together, then we are going to be able to recover together, recover stronger. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ibu Sri Mulyani, for the keynote speech, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, let's put our hands together for Ibu Sri Mulyani. You may return to your seat, Ibu, and please kindly remain on the stage as we are about to start our fireside chat session on mobilizing funds for the net zero emission agenda of the country. And now I will hand over this session to our moderator, Ibu Andini. Now the stage is yours.
Thank you, Andrea.